If you have been in a pruning season and you have been waiting to feel like it was worth it, this episode is where that happens. So focused on what you lost that you have not looked at what is growing. That program that you released, the clients that you let go, the identity that you put down, the room you walked out of. You have been grieving those things for weeks, maybe even months. But while you were grieving, something was happening that you did not even notice. What if the season that you have been trying to survive is actually the season that is building everything that you have been praying for? For 5 episodes, we have been in the hard place. We talked about recognizing the pruning. We talked about sudden loss. We talked about releasing what was still profitable. And we talked about the loneliness of evolution, as well as the identity that had to die. And if you have been walking through this series along with me and doing the work, you have more than likely released something, maybe more than one thing. You've named the resistance, you've confronted the identity props, you've sat in the gap, and this episode is for you because pruning was never the point. The fruit is. And what I want to show you in this episode is what is actually growing after the cut. Not the motivational version, not the Instagram version, but the real version, the one that only shows up after you have done the hardest work of your leadership life. Here's what I need you to understand. The fruit does not show up the day after the cut. There is always a gap. And we talked about that in episode 1 of this series, the gap between the release and the renewal. And in that gap, nothing looks like it's working. Nothing feels productive. Nothing feels like it's progress. But underneath the soil, everything is moving. You are watching or listening to the Move to Millions podcast. I am your host, Dr. Darnyelle, award-winning CEO of Incredible One Enterprises and the creator of several life and business-changing growth systems, including the Move to Millions method. This is part 6 of the Pruning Season series. If you have been here since part 1, thank you. This is the episode that you have earned. If you are just finding us, go all the way back. This one will not land the way that it's supposed to unless you get the first 5. Now, I want to tell you what I'm starting to see because I told you at the beginning of the series that I was not standing on the other side of pruning looking back, that I was in it. And that is still true. I am still in my gap year. I am still in the becoming, and I am in the midst of my evolution. But something has started to shift. Not in a dramatic parting the Red Sea or a burning bush kind of way, and not in that everything is clearer now kind of way, but in a quieter way, a more grounded way. The kind of shift that does not announce itself. It just shows up one morning and you realize that you are different. You're better. Now, personally, I stopped waking up with the urge to fix, not because I disciplined myself out of it, but because the urge is gone. The woman who needed to produce to feel valuable is not running the show anymore. Yeah, she's still in the room. She still has opinions, but she is not driving anything. And what has taken the place of that version of myself is something that I did not expect. I'm talking about clarity, confidence, and trust. You know, the kind of clarity that you get from a strategy session, the kind of confidence you get from silence, the kind that does not come from thinking harder. It comes from finally being still long enough for God to speak into the space you created when you let everything go. I mean, seriously, the most rewarding part of this gap year is realizing that what I told myself all those years is not true. I told myself, if it is to be, it is up to me. Now that is a lie. That is a heavy weight that I have been carrying. The truth is, if it is to be, it is up to He. And when I surrender and align, my identity produces everything that I desire, even more because His ways are not my ways. Now, I didn't know this when I started this, and I had no idea how this thing was going to go. And I'll be honest with y'all, I was terrified. I'm talking about shaking in my boots, terrified. I was trying to be obedient, but I was terrified nonetheless. I was not 100% convinced that taking a break from a business that is working, that is doing multiple 7 figures a year, was the answer. Hey, I hate to interrupt the goodness that's happening right now in this episode, but I need you to do me a quick favor. If this episode is blessing your life and business right now, would you please take a few minutes to rate and review the show? Listen, your words will help more seven-figure CEOs and seven-figure CEOs in the making find us and make the move to their next level. All right, thank you so much. Now, let's get back into the conversation because we were literally just getting this party started. But I love God and I trust God. And in my world, it's black or white. Either you trust him or you don't. It's that simple. And so I had to call myself to the carpet and I had to decide, Darnell Antoinette, either you trust him or you don't. And if you trust him, then trust him. He told me 3 times when I was in Bali, take a gap year, as clear as day. I heard it, not the whisper underneath the whisper. Like literally, I heard the Spirit of the Lord say, take a gap year. Now, this was after June of 2023 when he told me I needed a sabbatical. Now, I thought I knew what I was doing when I said I'll take a month off. And once I got there, I realized that was not enough. And I also realized that I did not want to return to what I had built. Hence my own pruning, hence you listening to this series right here, right now. Now, here's what I know. I've been pleasantly surprised by what has been transpiring in spite of all of the scared energy that I had, and has been so refreshing. But here's what I need for you to understand. The fruit does not look like the old thing with better marketing. It looks like something that I could not have designed from where I used to stand. And that is what I want you to hold on to as you listen or watch this episode. Because if you are in the gap right now, if you are between the release and the renewal, if you are wondering whether the pruning was worth it or if it will be worth it, then I need you to hear me. The fruit is coming. Remember, God only prunes what has fruit. And it is going to be different from anything you ever expected. Not less, different. And different, if we're being honest, is the whole point. Now, since I've been on my gap year and I have so much time and space, I've been checking in with and catching up with previous clients that we've worked with in our programs that are sunset, by the way. Last week, I chatted with a client who is on the other side of her pruning season. In fact, she was actually going through it while she was enrolled in our mastermind. She went through her own pruning season probably about 18 months ago. She released a program and team members, both of which were generating consistent revenue and results. Did you catch that? Like, she released something that she should probably keep going and grow. She started to fire clients who were no longer aligned with who she be. She stepped out of rooms that had been her professional home for years. She streamlined her remaining team and she changed her business model. Sounds familiar, right? She changed her positioning. And for about 4 months after doing all of that, nothing happened. It was like crickets. There was no new revenue to replace everything that she had released, no new clients signing up, no new opportunities knocking on the door, just silence and space and time for that relentless question, did I make a mistake? And I'm going to be honest with you, there were moments of her trying to undo what she had released because she didn't yet see that the release precedes the real revenue. But with my coaching and guidance, she stayed in it. She did not reach back for what she released. She did not panic launch something new. She sat in the gap as uncomfortable as it was. And together, I coached her to do the identity work that she most needed to do. And then the fruit started to sprout. It did not look like what she expected it to look like. She thought renewal would look like a better version of her old business model. And what she got was entirely different, and a business that really served her. A new offer that was so aligned with who she had become that for the first time when she delivered it, she literally cried. Not because she was sad, but because she felt like home. She was finally doing what she was actually put on this earth to do. Her audience shifted, and the people who started finding her were very different than the people who had been following her before. They were more aligned. They were more ready. They were more invested. They were the kind of clients that she used to dream about And finally, they were in her life experience. And the best part is that she did not have to chase them for them to arrive. She didn't get a bigger version of what she released. She got what she actually desired. And she could not have built any of that from where she was standing before. Had the pruning not happened, she would have just kept doing what she was doing. But the pruning changed her position. It put her in a place where the thing that she was actually called to do could finally show up in her life experience. And as we talked last week, I could hear her peace, y'all. I could hear her alignment, and I absolutely could hear her embodiment. She had learned how to enter and occupy what was uniquely hers, and she felt safe as she did it. Her nervous system learned her new normal, her baseline that leads to amazing ease-filled results. Today, she is literally living her dream life, and I'm so proud of her. Now, here's what's interesting. The data shows similar results. PricewaterhouseCoopers conducted a cross-industry analysis of more than 1,100 companies that had significantly modified their business models. And here is what they found. The companies that successfully reinvented themselves outperformed their industry peers by an average of 71 percentage points in combined profit margin and revenue growth. Yes, there is a reason that your strategy feels stalled, and it's spiritual. Discover your divine wiring, which informs how you lead, where you're sabotaging, and how to make the shift to scale with the Move to Millions Ascension Archetypes quiz. In just 3 minutes, you'll learn what's really blocking your money, your momentum, and your mission. Take the quiz today at movetomillionsquiz.com. 71 percentage points, not 71%. 71 percentage points of performance. And here's the part that really matters to this conversation and this episode. Not every company that reinvented itself experienced success. The bottom third actually underperformed against their peers, which means that reinvention alone is not the answer. The quality of the reinvention, that is the key. The companies that outperformed did 3 things. Number 1, they chose the right new business model, and it takes time to do that. Number 2, they made the operational changes that support the right business model. And number 3, they did it in the time that was for their best and highest good, even if it wasn't convenient. Now, let me translate this into pruning language. The CEOs who see fruit after a pruning season are not the ones who simply release something. They are the ones who release the right thing at the right time and then rebuild from alignment instead of from anxiety. This is the difference between pruning that produces fruit and pruning that just amplifies loss. Pruning without rebuilding is just subtraction. Pruning followed by aligned reinvention is how you get multiplication. So let me tell you what actually grows, because I don't want you to leave this episode with just feeling warm and fuzzy, right? I want you to leave here with a map. I believe that there are 5 fruits that grow after you complete a pruning season. Not while you're still in your pruning, but after it's done. 1, where you do the releasing, the identity work, the gap, and you wait. Let's talk about number 1. Clarity that you could not have manufactured. This is the first thing that arrives when you prune, and it usually arrives quietly. You stop wondering what to do, what to build next. You just know, not because you figured it out, but because the noise is gone. The competing voices are gone. The options that used to overwhelm you, guess what? They're gone. And what remains is one clear direction that you can feel in your body, not just in your brain. I'm talking about the kind of clarity that cannot be strategized. It cannot be coached into. It cannot be found on a whiteboard. It is the clarity that only grows when you have spaciousness, and you cannot create the space unless you prune. All right, the second type of fruit are the clients and opportunities that actually match who you be. This is the fruit that surprises people the most, because the people who start finding you after a pruning season, they're way different than the people you had before. They are not the people who are attracted to the old version of you. They are the people who resonate with the real version. And these clients, guess what? They're easier to serve, not because you're doing less, but because the alignment makes the work feel like purpose instead of performance. You actually stop dreading getting on calls with them. You stop resenting your calendar and you start looking forward to the delivery, because the delivery is finally the thing that you were built to give to the world. The third type of fruit is revenue that is sustainable because it is aligned. Now, this is the revenue that follows pruning, and it doesn't look like a spike. It looks like normal baseline and foundation. It is not the revenue of a launch that burns hot and then fades. It is the revenue of something that is built to last because it was built from truth instead of from trends. And here is what I want you to notice. The revenue usually does not arrive in a flood. It arrives in a steady building stream, because aligned revenue does not need hype to sustain it. It is sustained by the integrity of the offer and the resonance of the person delivering the offer. Now, if you are looking for an explosion of income on the other side of pruning, you might be disappointed at first. But if you are looking for revenue that does not require you to perform, manipulate, or exhaust yourself to the point of burnout to maintain, that is the type that will actually grow. All right, the fourth type of fruit is capacity that you did not have before. This is the one that no one talks about. And after a completed pruning season, you can hold more vision, more responsibility, more wealth, more impact, more complexity, if that's your thing, and more people. Not because you got better at managing, but because you are lighter. The weight that you were carrying, that old identity, those old offers, those old rooms, those old patterns, they were taking up the capacity that your next level requires. Pruning did not just remove what was in the way. Pruning creates space internally for what has been waiting in the wings. And the fifth type of fruit is peace that is not dependent on performance. This is the deepest fruit, y'all. And it is the one that your nervous system has been waiting for your entire career. After a completed pruning season, you stop needing the business to tell you that you are okay. Your peace is not tied to your revenue. Your worth is not tied to your last launch. And your identity is not tied to your output. You can actually have a quiet month and not spiral. You can lose a client and not question your calling. And you can take a week off and not check your inbox every 2 hours. That peace, that is the ultimate fruit of pruning, because peace equals capacity. And capacity is what your next level has actually been waiting on. Listen, y'all, the fact that I have so much space in my calendar and capacity is actually giving me the opportunity to do so many different things. Now, every dollar that you are praying for does not require for you to actually have to be present to hold it. Listen, this is where the game changes. Once you have capacity, you will be able to hold all of the things, all of the revenue, all of the vision, all of the leadership, all of the clarity without your body bracing. This is the game changer. And every client that you have been asking for requires a leader who can serve without performing. You didn't even know this was a thing because you didn't have space for it. But that is what happens when you actually get to the point of going through the process of pruning. All right, podcast team, we're going to start again at fruit number 5. And fruit 5, peace that is not dependent on performance. This is the deepest fruit, and it is the one that your nervous system has been waiting for your entire career. After a completed pruning season, you stop needing the business to tell you that you are okay. Your peace is no longer tied to your revenue. Your worth is no longer tied to your last launch. Your identity is not tied to your output. and you can actually, get this, have a quiet month and not spiral. You can lose a client and stop questioning your calling. You can literally take a week off and not check your inbox every 2 hours. That piece is the ultimate fruit of pruning, because peace is capacity, and capacity is what your next level has been waiting on. Here's what I want you to know and understand. Every dollar you have been praying for requires a nervous system that can hold it without contracting. Every client you have been asking for requires a leader who can serve without performing. And every level you have been trying to reach requires a person who is at peace with who they are, not just what they produce. Pruning builds that person. The fruit proves it. And here's what I want you to get. Every leader has a pattern that can block the fruit from landing, because receiving is not the same as achieving. And for high achievers, receiving is actually harder. Now, if you haven't guessed it yet, yes, I'm talking about the Move to Millions Ascension Archetype quiz that I created, which quite honestly is becoming the foundation of the way that we communicate with our community. What I've realized is that when I connect with you based on how you are divinely wired, the results of our connection deepen. Now, when you take the quiz, which will only take you 3 minutes to take, by the way, you will learn whether you are the performer, the producer, the path maker, the powerhouse, or the prophet. And I want you to know and understand that there is no right or wrong archetype. It is really just about building the awareness of how you are divinely wired and what you need to know and understand to work with, not against your wiring, to unlock your goals for money, wealth, leadership, and success. Now, after you take the quiz, you'll get access to a page that gives you the first level of details about your archetype. And then you can choose to go deeper by getting your hands on the private podcast and the Divine Design Report, both of which compound the insights that will shift the way that you show up in your life and your business. Now, right now, my team is literally in the process of redoing all of our email sequences to speak directly to your archetype. So if you have not taken the quiz yet, do so that every message we send you is tailored to how you be. And it shifts the way that you make your move to and beyond the $1 million mark. Now, let me take a moment and just walk through each archetype one by one based on this episode's focus. If you are a performer, hey performer, you block the fruit immediately by turning it into content. The new clarity arrives and your first instinct is to teach it, post about it, build a framework around it. But here's what you need to understand. The fruit needs time to root before it becomes a message. Let yourself have it before you share it. Not everything that grows in you is meant to be performed immediately. Some of it is just for you. If you are a producer, hey producer, you block the fruit by immediately systematizing it. The new offer arrives and you are all ready to build it into a funnel, the workflow and the delivery model. You done all the things, but the fruit is alive. It is not a system yet. If you systematize it too early, you will build infrastructure around something that is still forming, and it will calcify before it has room to become what it was actually supposed to be. You want to let it breathe before you build around it. If you're a path maker, hey path maker, you block the fruit by immediately expanding it. One new thing arrives and you see 7 variations of it. You start building 3 versions before the first one is even really finished. But the fruit is singular. It grew from 1 seed, not 7. Stay with the one thing long enough to let it mature before you multiply it. Trust me when I tell you, depth before breadth. And if you are a powerhouse, hey powerhouse, you block the fruit by immediately controlling it. The new thing arrives and your first instinct is to grip it, to protect it, to make sure no one can take it from you. But the fruit does not need to be defended. It needs to be tended. Tending and controlling are not the same thing. Tending is gentle. Tending trusts the process. Tending lets the fruit grow at its own pace instead of forcing it into a specific timeline. And if you are a prophet, hey prophet, you block the fruit by never fully claiming it. The new thing arrives and you see it clearly, so you can describe it, you can articulate it, but you hesitate to step into it fully Because what if there is more to this? What if this is not the final version? What if you move too soon? But the fruit is here. It has arrived. And waiting for a more complete version of what is already in your hands is how prophets lose seasons. Instead, claim it, build on it, and trust that refinement comes through action, not through waiting. Now, no matter which of the 5 archetypes is yours, you need to know. So I want you to go right now to movetomillionsquiz.com to take the Ascension Archetype quiz. And when you take it, do me a favor, tag me in a story on IG so that I can celebrate with you. Because the pattern that blocks your fruit is hiding in the same place as the pattern that resisted the pruning in the very first place. Your strengths, you need to know them, you need to name them, and then you need to get out of your own way so that you can realize them. Now, as you know, as a part of my gap year, it's been about recalibrating my business from the inside out. And a big part of that is preparing the new work that I am called to bring into the world through my new program, Sanctuary. Here's what I know. Until you are secure in your relationship with yourself, with money, with wealth, with leadership and success, your move to millions is in jeopardy. I created Sanctuary to give you that security. Now, in earlier episodes, I told you that Sanctuary is where I learned how to hold the gap. That is true. Where I learned to release the old identity and where I found safety in my becoming and being. Sanctuary is also where fruit takes root because renewal doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in soil. And soil is made of environment, relationships, practice, and truth. And Sanctuary is that soil. It is the space where the clarity that arrives after pruning has room to develop, where the new offer can be spoken out loud before it is launched, where the new identity can be practiced before it's performed, and where the fruit is tended, not just celebrated. Now, if you have done the pruning and you are starting to see the fruit, Sanctuary is where you protect it because the most vulnerable moment for new growth is right after it emerges. Trust me when I tell you, it is tender, it is not fully formed, and if you take it into the wrong environment too soon, it will not survive. Sanctuary was built to be the right environment. And while Sanctuary is not currently open for enrollment, our waitlist is indeed open so that you will be amongst the first to learn all about our Sanctuary programming when we launch in 2027. So I want you to join the waitlist. The link to do so is in the show notes for you. Now, before I close out this episode, I want to speak directly to 2 groups of people who are probably listening or watching right now. Number 1, if you are still in the pruning, if you are in the gap, or if you are in the identity death, or if you are wondering whether it was worth it, hear me. It is worth it, and the fruit will come, not because I'm being optimistic, but because I am living it right now, and because I have coached CEOs through it, because also the research confirms it. What grows after the cut is greater than what was removed every single time, but only if you do not reach back for what you already released. And the second, if you are starting to see the fruit, if something new is emerging, if clarity is arriving, if new people are finding you, if something is shifting, hear me when I say, do not rush it. Do not perform for it and do not hold too tight to it. Let it grow, let it root, and let it become what it is supposed to become without forcing it into the shape of what you used to have. The fruit is not a replacement for the old thing. It is an upgrade. It is an elevation. It is an evolution that you could not have ordered from where you were standing before. Trust me, the harvest is not coming. The harvest is here right now. You have to stop reaching for what you already released. Now, there are 3 things that I want you to do this week. Number 1, you probably could guess it. Take the Ascension Archetype quiz at movetomillionsquiz.com. Know how your archetype blocks the fruit so you can stop getting in your own way. Second thing I want you to do is I want you to name one thing that is growing, not the old thing, but the new thing, with clarity, with new direction, and with new energy, the new relationships that are forming. Name it, acknowledge it, and let it be real. And the third thing I want you to do is I want you to share this episode with a CEO who needs to hear that the pruning was worth it. The one who is in the gap, the one who is scared it did not work. Hand them this episode and let them hear what is on the other side. Now, say this with me. What I released made room for what is actually needed. The fruit is growing. I trust the harvest. Woo! I hope that felt as good to you as it did to me. Now, in the final episode in the pruning season series, we are going to put a bow on everything. I'm going to give you a protocol, a practice, something that you can run as you need to so that you never have to wait for God to prune you by force ever again. Because the CEOs who thrive at the highest of levels are not the ones who survive pruning. They are the ones who prune on purpose. That is what we're getting into in our final episode in this series, the Pruning Protocol. And it is the one that will serve you for the rest of your career. I don't want you to miss it. And until then, remember, millions are your birthright. And to access them, you need only move. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Thank you for joining me for the Move to Millions podcast. Every seven-figure CEO has a divine design, and yours is waiting to be revealed. Take the Ascension Archetype quiz today at movetomillionsquiz.com, and you'll uncover how you're wired for wealth and what needs to shift in order for you to make the move with grace and ease instead of hustle and grind. Now, if this episode blessed you, do me a favor, subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. And always remember, millions are your birthright, and to access them, you need only move. Take care.